The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions around the Zephyrian patrol fleet. 6 sleek ships moved through the void like ghostly shadows, their bioluminescent hulls pulsing with soft blue light. The aliens inside these vessels had been patrolling this sector for 3 months without encountering anything more dangerous than space debris and the occasional meteor shower. Commander Vexitar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the main viewing port. His forearms moved gracefully as he checked various instruments, while his large black eyes scanned the tactical displays. The Zephyrians were a peaceful species, and their ships reflected this nature. Built for exploration and trade rather than war, the vessels carried only basic defensive weapons. The bridge was quiet except for the soft humming of the life support systems and the gentle clicking sounds the crew made when they communicated. Vexitar had served in the patrol fleet for over 20 years, and this assignment was supposed to be routine. The outer rim of the Kepler sector was considered safe space, far from any known hostile territories. Suddenly, a sharp alarm pierced the calm atmosphere. The sound was unlike anything the crew had heard during their patrol, and it sent ripples of fear through the bridge. Krillnax, the sensor operator, frantically worked at his console while his tentacles moved across the controls with increasing panic. "Commander, we have detected an unknown vessel approaching from the Sol system," Krillnax reported, his voice shaking. "The energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. The power output readings are enormous." Vexitar moved quickly to the sensor station, his forearms working to pull up additional data. What he saw on the screens made his blood run cold. The approaching ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of his flagship. But size was not what worried him most. The energy readings coming from the vessel suggested weapon systems of incredible power. "How far away is this ship?" Vexitar asked, trying to keep his voice calm for the sake of his crew. "Approximately 2 light hours in closing, Commander," Krillnax replied. "At their current speed, they will reach us in 6 hours." The commander immediately activated the fleet communication system. Within minutes, the captains of all 6 ships were connected to the emergency conference. Their faces appeared on the main screen, and Vexitar could see the same fear in their eyes that he felt in his heart. "You have all seen the sensor readings," Vexitar began. "We are dealing with a ship of unknown origin and tremendous power. I need recommendations on how to proceed." Captain Zilneth of the second ship spoke first. "Commander, perhaps we should withdraw immediately. Our ships are not equipped for combat against such a vessel. But we have standing orders to investigate all unknown contacts," Captain Mordak pointed out. "Fleet Command expects us to gather intelligence on any new species we encounter." Meanwhile, far across the void, the USS Dakota continued its approach toward the Zephyrian fleet. The human battlecruiser was indeed massive, built during the height of Earth's military expansion into space. Its hull was covered in armor plating, designed to withstand the most powerful weapons humanity had ever created. Weapon ports lined its sides, and its engines burned with the fierce light of controlled fusion reactions. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, studying the tactical display that showed the alien contacts ahead. He was a veteran of the Mars campaign and had commanded the Dakota for 2 years. His crew respected him for his calm decision-making and his ability to handle dangerous situations. "Captain, we're picking up multiple contacts ahead," Lieutenant Lisa Parker announced from her position at the navigation console. "Configuration unknown, but they're definitely not from any human colony. I count 6 vessels in a loose formation." Morrison nodded and turned to his weapons officer. "Commander Brooks, what's your assessment?" Commander Ryan Brooks had been analyzing the alien ships since they first appeared on sensors. "Sir, the vessels appear to be lightly armed. Their hull composition suggests they're not built for heavy combat. They're maintaining a defensive formation but haven't made any aggressive moves." "Interesting," Morrison said thoughtfully. "Continue monitoring their movements. I want to know if they change course or power up any weapon systems." The bridge of the USS Dakota was a marvel of human engineering. Banks of computers processed information at incredible speeds, while holographic displays showed detailed tactical information about the surrounding space. The crew worked with the efficiency that came from years of training and experience. Lieutenant Ben Clark, the communications officer, had been trying to establish contact with the unknown ships. "Captain, I'm broadcasting standard first contact. Protocols on all frequencies. So far, no response from the alien vessels." Dr. Rachel Adams, the ship's science officer, looked up from her console. "Captain, I'm detecting some unusual energy patterns from their ships. It appears they use biological components in their technology. This is completely different from anything we've encountered before." Back on the Zephyrian flagship, panic was beginning to spread among the crew. The human ship continued to approach, at a steady pace, and its weapon systems showed no signs of powering down. To the aliens, every aspect of the USS Dakota appeared designed for maximum destruction. "Commander," Krillnax reported with growing alarm, "the vessel is broadcasting on multiple frequencies simultaneously. Our computers interpret this as active target acquisition protocols." Vextar felt his heart racing. In Zephyrian culture, broadcasting on multiple frequencies was indeed a sign of preparing for attack. He had no way of knowing that humans use this method for peaceful first contact. "Procedures." "Sir," another officer called out, "long-range sensors are detecting massive energy buildups in their weapon systems. The power levels are beyond anything we've ever recorded." What the Zephyrians were actually detecting was the normal operation of the Dakota's fusion reactors and defensive systems. The human ship maintained constant readiness as standard procedure, but to the aliens, this appeared to be preparation for an overwhelming assault. Vextar made a decision that would affect both species for years to come. "Send an emergency message to Fleet Command. Tell them we have encountered a vessel of unknown origin with capabilities far beyond our own. Request immediate reinforcements and instructions on how to proceed." The message was sent through the Zephyrian communication network, but it would take hours to reach their homeworld. In the meantime, the human ship continued its approach, unaware that its mere presence had thrown the alien patrol fleet into complete panic. Captain Morrison, for his part, was simply following standard exploration protocols. His ship maintained defensive readiness while attempting peaceful contact with the unknown vessels. He had no idea that his routine procedures were being interpreted as preparations for war by the frightened aliens ahead. The emergency message from Commander Vextar spread through the Zephyrian communication network like wildfire. Within hours, every ship in their sector had received the alarming news about the approaching human vessel. But along with the official report came something far more dangerous: rumors and stories that had been whispered in the dark corners of space for months. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, old crew members began sharing tales they had heard during shore leave on distant stations. Chief Engineer Quillmax was the first to speak up during the tense wait for orders from Fleet Command. "Commander, I have heard stories about these humans," Quillmax said quietly. 3 months ago, I was on Helix Station when merchants from the Draxian Empire arrived. They spoke of a battle near the Vega system. Vextar turned his attention to the engineer. The Draxians were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors with advanced technology. Their empire had conquered dozens of worlds through superior firepower and tactics. "What did they say about this battle?" Vextar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to hear the answer. Quillmax lowered his voice even more. "The merchants said a human fleet encountered 3 full Draxian battle groups. The Draxians had superior numbers and their best warships. The battle lasted only 4 hours. And the result?" pressed Vextar. "Complete destruction of the Draxian forces. Not a single human ship was lost. The merchant said the humans called it a minor skirmish." A cold silence fell over the bridge. The Draxian Empire was one of the most powerful military forces in this part of the galaxy. If humans could destroy 3 of their battle groups without losses, what hope did a simple patrol fleet have? Similar conversations were taking place on all 6 Zephyrian ships. Stories spread from crew member to crew member, each tale more terrifying than the last. Some spoke of human ships that could destroy planets with single shots. Others told of battles where humans fought against impossible odds and emerged victorious. Meanwhile, Admiral Zixmoth, the overall commander of the Zephyrian patrol forces, was reviewing intelligence reports in his private cabin aboard the command ship. The reports painted a picture of humanity that chilled him to his core. According to the intelligence gathered by various species, humans had developed their military technology through centuries of warfare among themselves. Their home world had seen countless conflicts, each one driving them to create more powerful and efficient weapons. What other species considered advanced military equipment, humans viewed as basic tools of war. The reports described human soldiers who never retreated, never surrendered, and fought with a determination that bordered on madness. Their ships were built like floating fortresses, designed to take massive damage and continue fighting. Human weapons were created with one purpose: total destruction of the enemy. Back on the USS Dakota, Captain Morrison was completely unaware of the fear his ship was causing. He stood in the main briefing room with his senior officers, discussing their approach to the alien fleet ahead. The unknown vessels have maintained their position for the past 2 hours, reported Lieutenant Commander Amy Watson, the ship's chief engineer. Their power signatures suggest they're running at minimal systems, almost like they're trying to avoid detection. Major Kevin Torres, the tactical officer, added his observations. Sir, they're maintaining a defensive formation, but it's not very effective. Their positioning suggests they're more concerned with escape routes than fighting. Morrison studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet. What do we know about their technology level? Dr. Rachel Adams spoke up from her position at the science station. Captain, their ships use biological components integrated with traditional technology. It's actually quite advanced, but in a completely different direction from our development. Their hulls appear to be grown rather than built. Grown? Morrison asked with interest. Yes, sir. The energy patterns suggest living material that has been shaped and hardened for space travel. It's remarkable engineering, actually. Lieutenant Ben Clark had been monitoring communication frequencies and noticed something unusual. Captain, I'm detecting increased chatter between the alien ships. The pattern suggests they're sharing information rapidly, almost like they're coordinating some kind of response. What Clark was actually hearing was the spreading panic among the Zephyrian crews as stories and rumors circulated through their communication network. Each ship was reporting the terrifying tales they had heard about human military capabilities. On the Zephyrian flagship, communications officer Zell Lara had been analyzing the human transmissions with growing alarm. Commander, the human ship continues to broadcast on multiple targeting frequencies while maintaining full power to all weapon systems. They show no signs of peaceful intentions. Vextar felt his hope fading. Have they responded to any of our attempts at communication? No, sir. They continue broadcasting in their own language on frequencies typically used for military coordination. Our translators cannot decode their meaning, but the patterns match those used by aggressive species before attacks. The truth was that the USS Dakota was following standard first contact protocols developed by human diplomats. The multiple frequency broadcasts were attempts to find a common communication channel, and the ship's weapon systems remained online as a basic safety precaution. But to the Zephyrians, every human action appeared hostile. Commander Ryan Brooks was running routine system checks when he noticed unusual energy readings from the alien fleet. Captain, the unknown vessels appear to be powering down their weapons. They're also reducing engine output to minimum levels. Morrison found this behavior puzzling. Are they trying to show non-aggressive intent? It's possible, sir, but their formation suggests they're preparing for either rapid retreat or complete surrender. Dr. Adams looked up from her analysis. Captain, I think we may be dealing with a species that has a very different approach to first contact. Their behavior suggests they view us as a significant threat, even though we haven't made any hostile moves. The cultural differences between the two species were creating a dangerous misunderstanding. Humans had learned to approach unknown situations with strength and preparedness, ready to defend themselves if necessary, but hoping for peaceful contact. The Zephyrians, on the other hand, were a naturally peaceful species who avoided conflict whenever possible. Admiral Zixmoth finally received new intelligence that made the situation even more terrifying. A message from the Hegemony Council confirmed the stories about human military prowess. The report stated that humans had engaged multiple hostile species and emerged victorious in every encounter. Their ships were described as nearly indestructible, and their weapons could punch through any known defensive system. The report also mentioned something that filled Zixmoth with dread. According to intelligence sources, humans had never been observed retreating from a battle. They fought until they achieved total victory or died trying. There was no middle ground in human military thinking. As the USS Dakota continued its approach, both fleets remained locked in a tense standoff. The humans viewed the situation as a routine first contact scenario requiring caution and diplomacy. The Zephyrians saw it as a potential massacre that could destroy their entire patrol fleet. The stage was set for a confrontation that neither side wanted, driven by misunderstanding, fear, and the growing legend of human military superiority that had spread throughout the galaxy. 4 hours had passed since the first detection, and the tension between the two fleets had reached a breaking point. Commander Vextar paced back and forth on his bridge, his forearms moving nervously as he checked and rechecked the sensor displays. The human warship had closed the distance by half and showed no signs of changing course or reducing speed. "Sir, we're receiving new data from our deep space sensors," reported Krillnax, his voice barely above a whisper. "The human vessel has activated additional systems. Power output has increased by 30%. What the Zephyrians were detecting was actually a routine shift change aboard the USS Dakota. The night crew had taken their positions, and standard operating procedures required them to run full diagnostics on all ship systems. But to the frightened aliens, it appeared that the humans were preparing for an imminent attack. Vextar moved to his communication station and opened a channel to Admiral Zixmoth. "Admiral, the situation continues to deteriorate. The human ship is powering up additional systems and maintaining course directly toward our position." Admiral Zixmoth appeared on the main screen, his usually calm demeanor replaced by obvious stress. "Commander, I have been in contact with Fleet Command. They are sending reinforcements, but the nearest battle group is 18 hours away. We must handle this situation ourselves." The Admiral paused and looked directly at Vextar. "I am authorizing you to take whatever action you deem necessary to protect your ships and crews. If the humans show hostile intent, you are cleared to defend yourselves." Vextar felt his heart sink. His small patrol fleet had never been designed for combat against a vessel of the Dakota's apparent capabilities. Their weapons were meant for dealing with pirates and small raiders, not military warships from an unknown and seemingly aggressive species. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Dakota, Captain Morrison was becoming increasingly puzzled by the alien fleet's behavior. He stood in his ready room with his senior officers studying the tactical data that had been collected over the past several hours. "Their power signatures keep fluctuating," observed Lieutenant Commander Watson. "It's almost like they're having trouble deciding what to do. One moment they're powering up engines, the next they're reducing power to minimal levels." Commander Brooks nodded in agreement. "Sir, I've never seen anything like it. Their weapon systems come online for a few minutes, then go offline again. Either they're having serious technical problems, or they're as confused about us as we are about them." Dr. Adams had been analyzing the alien ship's biological components and made a disturbing discovery. "Captain, I think I understand why they seem so inconsistent. Their ships appear to respond to the emotional state of their crews. The biological components are literally reacting to fear and uncertainty." Morrison found this information fascinating, but troubling. "Are you saying their ships are alive?" "Not exactly alive, but definitely responsive to biological input. It's like their technology is partially organic. When the crew is calm, the ship operates smoothly. When they're stressed or frightened, the ship's systems become unstable." This revelation put the alien behavior in a new light. Morrison realized that the constant power fluctuations might indicate that the alien crews were terrified of his ship. But why would they be afraid of a peaceful exploration vessel? Lieutenant Clark had been working on decoding the alien communications and finally made a breakthrough. "Captain, I think I've figured out part of their language. They keep using what appears to be mathematical sequences combined with emotional indicators. It's like they're trying to calculate their chances of survival." The reality was even worse than Clark realized. The Zephyrian crews were indeed calculating survival probabilities, and the numbers were not encouraging. Based on the stories they had heard about human military capabilities, Their computers estimated less than a 5% chance of any ship surviving a direct engagement. On the Zephyrian flagship, communications officer Zell Lara made a discovery that sent waves of panic through the bridge. "Commander, I have decoded some of the human transmissions. They are using tactical frequency bands typically reserved for coordinating attacks between multiple ships." Vextar looked confused. "But sensors show only one human vessel." "Yes, sir, but the communication patterns suggest they are expecting reinforcements. They may be part of a larger fleet that has not yet appeared on our sensors." The truth was that the USS Dakota was broadcasting on military frequencies because those were the clearest channels available for long-range communication. The ship was actually trying to contact any nearby human vessels to report the first contact situation. But to the Zephyrians, it appeared that the humans were calling for backup to help destroy the alien patrol fleet. Dr. Adams continued her analysis of the alien technology and made another unsettling discovery. "Captain, their hull designs suggest they've never encountered kinetic weapons or high-energy plasma systems. Their armor appears optimized for energy-based attacks at much lower power levels." Morrison began to understand the implications. "Are you saying that our standard weapons would be unusually effective against their ships?" "More than effective, sir. Our main guns could probably penetrate their hulls with a single shot. Their defensive systems simply aren't designed to handle the type of weapons we carry." This information troubled Morrison deeply. He had no intention of harming the alien ships, but if they were as fragile as Dr. Adams suggested, even a warning shot could be catastrophic. Major Torres had been monitoring the aliens' defensive preparations and noticed something alarming. "Captain, the alien ships are repositioning into what appears to be a final defensive formation. They're clustering together and focusing their weapons toward us." On the Zephyrian side, the formation was actually an attempt to protect their weaker ships by putting the flagship between them and the approaching human vessel. It was a desperate move born of fear rather than aggression. Commander Vextar made what he hoped would not be his final command decision. "All ships, prepare for emergency. Jump to hyperspace. If the human vessel shows any sign of weapons lock, we retreat immediately." The order was transmitted to all 6 ships, but their crews knew that escape might not be possible. Human ships were rumored to have faster-than-light capabilities that surpassed anything the Zephyrians possessed. Captain Morrison noticed the alien ship's movement and called for an immediate conference with his senior staff. "They're changing formation again. It looks like they're preparing to run. Or preparing for a coordinated attack," suggested Commander Brooks. "That formation could be offensive as well as defensive." Dr. Adams disagreed. "Based on their power, signatures, and the emotional responses I'm detecting from their biological systems, I believe they're terrified. They're not preparing to attack us, Captain. They're preparing to die." The standoff had reached a critical point. Both sides were operating on incomplete information and cultural misunderstandings that threatened to turn a peaceful first contact situation into a tragedy. The humans remained unaware of their fearsome reputation, while the Zephyrians were convinced they were about to face annihilation at the hands of the galaxy's most dangerous predators. Time was running out for both fleets, as the USS Dakota continued its approach, and the frightened alien crews prepared for what they believed would be their final battle. The USS Dakota was now only 1 hour away from the alien fleet, and the situation aboard both groups of ships had become desperate. Commander Vextar stood on his bridge, watching the human warship grow larger on his main screen. The vessel looked even more terrifying up close, with weapon ports clearly visible along its massive hull and engines that burned with the fierce light of barely contained power. "Sir, we're detecting new energy buildups from the human ship," reported Krillnax, his tentacles shaking as he worked his controls. "They appear to be charging their main weapon systems." What the Zephyrians were actually detecting was the Dakota's routine power management cycle. The ship's fusion reactors automatically redistributed energy every few hours to maintain optimal efficiency. But to the frightened aliens, it looked like the humans were preparing their weapons for a devastating first strike. Admiral Zixmoth had been monitoring the situation from his command ship and finally made the decision he had been dreading. opened a fleet-wide communication channel to address all captains simultaneously. "Commanders, we face a situation unlike any in our history," Zixmoth began, his voice heavy with resignation. "Intelligence reports confirm that humans are the most dangerous military force encountered by any known species. They have never been defeated in battle, and they show no mercy to their enemies." The alien captains listened in growing horror as their admiral continued. "Our reinforcements are still 14 hours away. We cannot outrun the human ship and we cannot match their firepower. I am authorizing the use of Protocol 7. A collective gasp came from every bridge in the fleet. Protocol 7 was the final option for Zephyrian military units facing complete annihilation. It called for the surrender of all ships and the acceptance of whatever terms the enemy might offer. No Zephyrian fleet had ever been forced to use Protocol 7. Captain Morrison, meanwhile, was dealing with his own set of problems aboard the USS Dakota. His science officer had made a discovery that changed everything about their approach to the alien contact. "Captain, I've been analyzing the communication patterns from the alien fleet," Dr. Adams reported during an emergency briefing. "They're not just afraid of us. They're absolutely terrified. The biological components of their ships are showing stress patterns that suggest their crews believe they're about to die." Morrison looked around the briefing room at his senior officers. "But we've done nothing threatening. We've maintained defensive posture and broadcast peaceful intentions." Lieutenant Commander Watson spoke up. "Sir, maybe that's the problem. Our defensive posture might seem aggressive to a species with different military traditions." Commander Brooks had been thinking about the tactical implications. "Captain, what if our reputation precedes us? We've had several encounters with hostile, alien species over the past year. Word might have spread about our military capabilities." Morrison considered this possibility. The human fleet had indeed fought several battles against aggressive alien forces, but those had been defensive actions to protect human colonies. He had never considered that other species might view these victories as signs of human aggression. Dr. Adams pulled up her analysis on the main screen. "Sir, based on the alien ship designs and their weapon signatures, I believe they come from a part of the galaxy where warfare is conducted very differently. Their weapons are low-powered compared to ours, and their defensive systems appear designed for conflicts that last days or weeks rather than hours." "You're saying they've never seen anything like our military technology?" Morrison asked. "Exactly, sir. To them, our ship probably looks like something from their worst nightmares. Our standard armament could destroy their entire fleet in minutes, and they know it." The weight of this realization hit Morrison hard. He had spent his career trying to avoid unnecessary conflicts, but it seemed that his ship's very presence was causing panic among the alien crews. Lieutenant Clark had been working on a breakthrough in communication and finally succeeded in decoding part of the alien language. "Captain, I've managed to translate some of their transmissions. They're discussing something called Protocol 7. From the context, it appears to be some kind of final emergency procedure." On the Zephyrian flagship, Commander Vexitar was preparing to implement Admiral Zixmoth's orders. He stood before his communications console, knowing that his next transmission might be the last official act of his career. "Human vessel, this is Commander Vexitar of the Zephyrian Patrol Fleet," he began, broadcasting on all frequencies. "We acknowledge your superior power and request mercy for our crews. We offer complete surrender and will comply with any terms you deem appropriate." The message was transmitted using mathematical sequences and universal constants, making it clear, even without perfect translation, that the aliens were offering to surrender. Aboard the USS Dakota, the bridge fell silent as Lieutenant Clark played the decoded message. Captain Morrison stared at the communication display in shock. "They're surrendering?" Morrison asked in disbelief. "We haven't even made hostile contact. Why would they surrender?" Dr. Adams had been analyzing the cultural implications of the message. "Captain, this appears to be a formal surrender protocol. In their culture, when facing an obviously superior force, they offer complete submission to avoid total destruction." Commander Brooks looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet. "Sir, they're powering down all weapons and reducing engines to minimum. They're making themselves completely defenseless." Morrison felt a mixture of confusion and responsibility. These alien beings were so afraid of his ship that they were willing to surrender without a fight. The last thing he wanted was to be seen as a conqueror or aggressor. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," Morrison ordered. "I want to try to communicate with them directly." Lieutenant Clark worked at his console. "Channel open, sir, but I'm not sure how much they'll understand." Morrison stepped forward and spoke clearly and slowly. "Alien vessels, this is Captain Morrison of the human ship Dakota. We come in peace. We do not wish to harm you or your crews. Please respond if you understand this message." The response from the Zephyrian fleet was immediate. Commander Vextar's voice came through the speakers, filled with relief and disbelief. "Human Captain Morrison, we understand your words. We are grateful for your mercy. We will comply with any orders you give us." Morrison realized that the situation had become more complicated than any first contact scenario in human history. The aliens were convinced that humans were dangerous conquerors, while the humans were simply trying to make peaceful contact. Somehow, he had to bridge this enormous gap in understanding before the situation became even worse. The fate of both species' future relationship now rested on Morrison's ability to convince a terrified alien fleet that not all humans were the monsters they had been led to believe. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Dakota, staring at the alien fleet that had just surrendered to him. The weight of responsibility pressed down on his shoulders as he realized that his next words could determine the future relationship between humans and this unknown species. "Dr. Adams, I need your help," Morrison said quietly. "How do we convince them that we're not here to conquer or destroy them?" Dr. Adams was already working on the problem. "Captain, I believe the key is to use universal concepts that any intelligent species would understand. Mathematics, physics, and basic scientific principles should translate across cultural barriers." Lieutenant Clark had been analyzing the alien surrender message and made an important discovery. "Sir, their communication includes mathematical proofs and geometric patterns. It's like they're trying to show us they're intelligent beings worthy of mercy." Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "Then we'll respond the same way. Dr. Adams, work with Clark to create a message using mathematics and science. We need to show them that we come in peace." While the human crew worked on their response, Commander Vextar waited anxiously aboard his flagship. He had expected immediate demands from the human captain, perhaps orders to prepare his ships for boarding or to transfer valuable cargo. Instead, there was only silence. "Sir, the human ship has stopped its approach," reported Krillnax. "They're maintaining position at exactly 1 light-minute distance." Vextar found this puzzling. Every story he had heard about human military tactics suggested they moved quickly to destroy or capture enemy vessels. Why were they waiting? The answer came 20 minutes later, when Dr. Adams and Lieutenant Clark finished preparing their message. The transmission began with simple mathematical concepts, the value of pi, basic geometric proofs, and the fundamental constants of physics. But then it moved into something more complex. "We're including the atomic structure of hydrogen and helium," Dr. Adams explained to Morrison. "Then we'll show the fusion process that powers stars. It's a way of demonstrating that we understand the universe works through natural laws, not through conquest and destruction." The message continued with representations of planetary orbits, the speed of light, and other universal constants. But the most important part came at the end, a simple mathematical sequence that represented peace and cooperation between different groups. When the message reached the Zephyrian fleet, it caused immediate excitement among their scientists. Chief Science Officer Quindal aboard Admiral Zixmoth's ship was the first to understand its meaning. "Admiral, this is remarkable," Quindal reported. "The humans are demonstrating advanced scientific knowledge, but they're presenting it as shared information rather than a display of superiority. This is not the behavior of conquerors." Admiral Zixmoth studied the mathematical proofs on his screen. "What are they trying to tell us?" "Sir, I believe they're trying to establish peaceful communication. The final sequence appears to represent cooperation and mutual benefit. They're suggesting that both species can learn from each other." For the first time in hours, Zixmoth felt a glimmer of hope. "Prepare a response using the same format. Show them that we understand their message and that we're willing to communicate peacefully." The Zephyrian response came an hour later, and it amazed the human crew. The aliens had not only understood the mathematical concepts but had added their own scientific knowledge to the exchange. They shared information about their biological technology and the way their ships integrated living systems with mechanical components. Dr. Adams was fascinated by the alien response. "Captain, this is incredible. They've shown us technology that could revolutionize our understanding of biological engineering. They're not just communicating with us, they're sharing valuable scientific knowledge." Morrison smiled for the first time since the encounter began. "It seems they're as curious about us as we are about them." The breakthrough came when both sides began exchanging cultural information along with the scientific data. The humans explained that their military capabilities had developed through conflicts with aggressive species that threatened human colonies. The Zephyrians shared their own history of peaceful exploration and trade. Commander Vextar finally understood why his fleet had been so terrified. "The humans are not conquerors," he announced to his crew. "They are defenders. They're powerful. Weapons exist to protect their people, not to attack peaceful species." The realization spread through the Zephyrian fleet like waves of relief. The biological components of their ships began to stabilize as the crew's fear changed to curiosity and excitement. Captain Morrison decided it was time for direct communication. "Commander Vextar, I want to apologize for the fear we caused your fleet. We had no idea that our reputation had spread through this part of the galaxy." Vextar's response came through clearly. "Captain Morrison, the fault is ours. We believed stories and rumors without attempting to verify them. Your actions today have shown us that humans are capable of wisdom and restraint." The two commanders agreed to establish formal first contact protocols. Morrison ordered his ship to reduce power to minimal levels and retract all weapon systems. In response, the Zephyrian fleet resumed normal operations and began transmitting detailed information about their species and culture. Dr. Adams worked with the alien scientists to establish translation protocols that would allow for more complex communication. Within hours, both sides were exchanging information about their home worlds, their technology, and their goals for exploring the galaxy. Admiral Zixmoth sent a message to Fleet Command explaining the peaceful resolution of the crisis. The response was immediate and enthusiastic. The Zephyrian government authorized full diplomatic contact with humanity and requested that a formal embassy be established. Morrison received similar orders from Earth Command. His successful handling of the first contact situation had impressed his superiors, and they wanted to build on the foundation he had created. The encounter that had begun with fear and misunderstanding ended with the establishment of one of the most important diplomatic relationships in galactic history. The Zephyrians became humanity's first true allies among the alien species, sharing their biological technology in exchange for human defensive systems. Years later, the incident became known as the Kepler contact, and it was studied by diplomats and military officers throughout human space. Captain Morrison's patient approach to resolving the crisis became the standard for all future first contact situations. Commander Vextar was promoted to admiral and became the Zephyrian ambassador to humanity. He often spoke about the importance of looking beyond reputation and rumor to find the truth about other species. The story of the human warship that terrified an alien fleet but chose peace over conquest spread throughout the galaxy. It became a legend that enhanced humanity's reputation not as conquerors, but as a species capable of great power, tempered by wisdom and compassion.